Welcome to Rachel Watches Star Trek. This episode was previously recorded on a YouTube live stream and has been edited from its original format. So, Rachel.
Yeah?
Wesley falls in love with the new leader of a war-torn world. What do you think you're going to get?
I'm seeing gold faux leather bra and straps and maybe like a Roman skirt on her, but she's sensitive really on the inside. Maybe he'll be tempted for a moment to leave the Enterprise for her. Maybe Whoopi will talk him around. They don't usually send Wes to a planet anymore, so I'm guessing that this all happens on the ship. What do you think?
That sounds pretty good.
Okay, let's dive in.
Rachel Watches Star Trek.
Welcome to Rachel Watches Star Trek. I'm Rachel Lackey.
And I'm Chris Lackey.
And we're here to present you with the Dauphin. Which species are you?
Human.
Excellent.
Oh.
It reminds me of that woman in Santa Monica who would come up to you and say, "What's your heritage?" And you'd say, "Dutch, Irish or whatever." And
Yeah.
very good. This is what the lizardy lady protector says later.
Yeah.
What species are you? Human. Excellent.
Yeah, she's into it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This episode is called Dauphin, which is French for dolphin.
It's not.
It is.
Is it?
That's what I've read.
All right.
And yet, there are no dolphins in this episode.
Ooh. Was hoping. Well, actually, I didn't know it meant dolphins, so I wasn't hoping. The term was also used by the French aristocracy as the title of the crown prince back before the revolution. Yeah. Dauphin is the eldest son, but it should be Dauphine, since the character is female.
So the episode begins with the Enterprise going to the planet Clavidia 3. Is that right?
That sounds quite venereal now that you say it, doesn't it?
Clavidia 3. They are there to pick up and transport a young leader, Celia, and her guardian, Anya, to take them to the planet Dalid 4. Now, Dalid 4 has had a civil war for generations. The planet is in tidal lock, meaning that there is a night side and a day side, and never the two shall cross.
This creates two differently evolved cultures, which is where the conflict lies.
Celia is the offspring of people from both sides and is expected to bring some kind of reconciliation to the planet.
I'm so distracted by this funny comment. It's right next door to Herpes 4. So a lot of pressure on poor Celia here. She's supposed to be saving two nations. Her parents have died.
Yeah.
She's been brought up. She's another young woman who's been brought up basically on her own on a planet. How awful.
Yeah.
At least this time she's with a woman instead of some creepy old scientist guy.
Yeah, true. Now, LaForge tells the captain that they need some time to do maintenance on the engines, and it should only take a few hours, and Picard approves it, and little Wesley goes down to help Geordi out.
Geordi's very proactive this episode.
Oh,
yeah. They beam up Celia and Anya to the Enterprise. Celia is a young woman, teenager, 27 at the time of filming, and seems very intelligent and inquisitive. She's spent a long time doing her book smarts. Very girl next door as well, though. But they've gone for a real French medieval vibe with the costumes. Space style. I like them. I think they're really good.
I didn't pick that up, but now that you say that, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Jamie was 26, 27 at the time. Will was 16.
Ooh.
And she's another Star Trek actor who went on to become a therapist. Seems to be quite a theme now. Well, we've had a few.
Well, I know that the actress that played Mackenzie on Manimal is now a professional therapist.
Well, you would become, wouldn't you? You'd be all kinds of confused about human nature. I mean, I've never seen the show. She doesn't want Celia to do anything. Celia sees Wesley in the corridor, and oh man, does the orchestra of Swooned start playing in their minds. She rushes over to talk to him about the ship part he's carrying. She wants to know more about his part. Woo! Yes, John therapists are cool.
Sparks fly, hormones, and Anya quickly demonstrates her title, the cock blocker.
Yeah, she's going to be cock blocking it up all the way through this episode in her little lizard garb that she's wearing.
Celia is quickly whisked away to their quarters.
Wesley asks Riker, "Who's that girl?" Riker says, "The future ruler of a planet." Score! She's pretty too.
Who's that girl?
Lady. Oh, I was thinking it was a different song. What's your song?
Madonna.
Running around with you. No.
No, that's
That's
the
third song.
Eurythmics. That's the Eurythmics.
Okay. I don't know what I was doing. I feel really disloyal saying this. I shouldn't even say it. But I thought from her teeth she might be English. That's really rude. I'm sorry, and I shouldn't have said it. But she was born in Germany. But she's obviously not had the US dental regime of braces and
Yeah.
stuff, has she?
Yeah.
But she's gorgeous, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes her, people think that they might be able to stand a chance.
Right. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a model.
So Wesley's dicking around in his quarters when Data shows up. Seems Wesley asked Data to come talk to him.
Maybe because he knows he won't spread it around or something. He's not embarrassed in front of him.
Why is Data making house calls?
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. Data.
Like, yeah, why doesn't he go to Data's quarters and say, hey, Data, I got a question. I want to talk to you. But
That's the bit that
yeah,
you got upset about.
it really bothered me. Well, anyway, Wesley wants to talk to Data about Celia and her people and what the lowdown is. And Data's like, well, basically, all we know is what was said at the top of the show. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you again.
Yeah, just to remind you.
Since her dead parents were of different factions, she's expected to bring these two factions together. So she's very important. Nobody else can do it.
Picard calls down to Celia's quarters from the bridge to check on the guests, and Celia says they're fine. In fact, she's swooning and she's trying to get more information about Wesley. Then Troy says there's something they're hiding, but I don't know what, as usual. There's something hidden about who they are. Will this come in handy? Will it? Heck. They'll just have to find it out themselves with their eyes. You could ask him to do anything for you, says John about Data. Ooh,
Oh,
now we're
my.
thinking.
Hey, now.
Data doesn't mind doing anything, says John. He really is emphasizing this point.
I wonder if that would be the case.
And Rafe says it is Data's quarters. Wesley's quarters are Data's redressed. So
Oh,
it doesn't
there
really
you go.
matter. Yeah.
There you go. So we're now in Celia's quarters, but then there's another woman there, a teenage girl, and it's Shelley Johnson from Twin Peaks.
As Stefan says, and she is 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Grief.
She's a very attractive woman, and she was attractive on Twin Peaks. It was a bevy of attractive women, overflowing with attractive women of all ages.
Lousy with them.
Machin Amick is her name, the actress that plays Shelley Johnson. But we don't know who she is. She just walks in, and she's just talking to Celia like they're best buds, but we have no introduction to her. And you're like, who's she?
Yeah, where's she come from? How
Yeah.
did she get on board? And Rafe's just thrown in there that Troy's pissed because they're actually in her room. If you look in HD, you can see it says Lieutenant Commander Troy on the door.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Sloppy, sloppy, sloppy.
Sloppy Joe. But they seem like the best buddies. Shelley affirms that Celia has a duty and that she shouldn't get distracted with ships and boys. The woman then transforms into this little creature,
Oh,
which is like a little,
bit of a cousin-it Ewok.
yeah, kind of Ewok-y kind of thing with real big eyes.
Yeah.
But when this happens, she's like, yeah, what else? It's no biggie.
What the heck?
Yeah, we don't know what's going on, but I'm guessing that they will explain.
She talks to it in English, and it replies in clicks, so I don't know how we're supposed to interpret that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
What's going on with this species? I don't know.
What is that about?
But they're holding hands, they're continuing the conversation they were having as one female friend to another.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different sort of vibe from the cock blocker, but as we'll find out, it's the same being.
It's the same being. Wesley has got girl on the brain, and he keeps messing up at work, and Geordi finally says, look, you are useless to me. Get the heck out of here.
It had to happen someday, says Geordie. Hormones, so well, just let him go and have a day off. Magic Thigh says, what even is this episode? Shape-changing Ewok. I've seen all of TNG and I do not remember this madness.
A few years ago when I did my rewatch of TNG, there were a few episodes that I had never seen before that had somehow slipped out of my...
They're just never shown on syndication or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never saw them, and I was surprised. I was like, what? So it's great. But I've seen them all now.
Yeah.
I know for sure that I have. Geordi says, go talk to her. Go chat her up. And he's like, what do I say?
No, he doesn't.
And he's like, just talk to her about whatever you like, and, it'll work itself out. And he goes, but what do I do? And he's like, look, don't ask me.
Just let me get on with my work.
I've
on
got
the
not
clock
only
here.
to do my work, I got to do your work now.
Yeah.
So get the F out.
Special treatment or what?
Oh, yeah.
For Wesley?
Maybe they do that to all their engineers.
The ones who are going through puberty.
They
Peter
can,
Larson says hormones are a hell of a drug.
Oh, boy. It's true.
So Wesley goes to Worf for some love advice for some wild reason.
We're going to play the clip on the show, but
read it out
for you
for timing
guys,
purposes.
we're going to perform.
And for fun.
You're gonna be Worf?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Are you telling me to go yell at Celia?
No. Men do not roar. Women roar. And they hurl heavy objects. And claw at you.
What does the man do?
He reads love poetry. He ducks a lot.
Worf, it sounds like it works great for the Klingons, but I think I need to try something a little less dangerous.
Go to her door. Beg like a human.
Rafe thinks I sounded like Chewbacca. I tried. Dawn's really funny in this scene.
Yeah, he is.
I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
He's really enjoying remembering the Klingon mating ritual. Maybe a little bit too much, as he gives advice to a teenager. He's 16, but
A human teenager, too.
well, yeah,
He
it's
should
not,
know.
not relevant, is it?
He
Yeah.
should know better. I think he was just like, look, you're...
We did ask, though.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So Picard is going to take Anya on a trip, or at least have her escorted on a little journey around the ship, show it off to her. Celia, unfortunately, isn't allowed to go. She has to stay in the quarters. Now, we see this little creature actually morph into Anya, so we know that Anya is a shapeshifter.
She's much nicer when she's the little Ewok.
Yeah.
There, isn't she?
And when she's Shelley,
Yeah.
she's nicer, too. Finally, Wesley goes to Riker for some romance advice. I mean, we were all thinking it. Like, immediately, it's
yeah.
like, go to Riker. He knows what's going on.
Supposedly. This is your dream, though. Chris is always handing out unsolicited, flirting advice to single people. Just because... Thanks for the compliment. Then basically your advice is ask them questions, isn't it, or something?
I'm not going to be giving out my advice online after you just admonished me for
no.
doing so.
Sorry. Yeah, it seems uncertain if Worf's telling a joke or being serious, says Stefan. But yeah, is he just sort of having a laugh with Wesley? But he seems really turned on, doesn't he?
I think he's being honest. He just knows that Wesley is not ready for this information. He's kind of shocking him a bit, I think.
Guinan and Riker are no more helpful. Let's be frank about
Yeah, well,
it.
Riker decides that he's going to get Guinan to help him demonstrate how to talk to a lady.
Now, first words out of your mouth are the most important. You may want to start with something like this here. You are the most beautiful woman in the galaxy. But that might not work.
Yes, it would.
You don't know how long I've wanted to tell you that.
But you're afraid
Yes,
of me?
of us, of what we might become.
Commander?
Or that you might think that was a lie.
Maybe I do think it's a lie.
Can you think I'm not sincere?
I didn't say that. There's nothing wrong with the line. It's like a knock at the door.
Then you're inviting me in.
I'm not sending you away.
That's more than I expected.
Is it as much as you hoped?
To hope is to recognize the possibility. I had only dreams.
Dreams can be dangerous.
Not these dreams. I dream of a galaxy where your eyes are the stars and the universe worships the night.
Careful. Putting me on a pedestal so high you may not be able to reach me.
Then I'll learn how to fly. You are the heart in my day and the soul in my night.
I don't think this is my style. Shut up, kid. Tell me more about my eyes.
That was a long clip. That's really good. I like it.
Funny. It's really funny.
David Wetzel's in for, I think, a new show called Chris Love Connection.
Yeah, I could give out.
Lacking in love? Ask Lackey about love. That's his magic there. I found that scene really funny.
Yeah, I did too.
Guinan finds it cheesy at first, you can see in her face, but then she decides to get into it.
Yeah.
And then she does get into it.
Yeah.
I think.
I think she does too. I think her and Riker get it on after that.
Do you think?
Oh, yeah, why not?
I wasn't sure whether they were getting into each other just to make Wes awkward, or they did start getting into each other, or both, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
They were playing kind of a line game, like hitting back and forth.
Yeah.
And so I think they got into that and forgot all about Wesley. And then
Yeah, they totally. He just has to sidle out.
it was funny. It was a really funny scene.
And we do get the Riker maneuver in that scene too, Rafe, if you talk about the leg over the chair.
Yeah, the Riker maneuver.
He shows her the goods as he enters the conversation, doesn't he?
Shows us the goods.
Yep.
Oh, boy. So Wesley finally just ovaries up and goes to talk to Celia.
Passing by a very beefy guard on the way who's kind of holding his arms to show off his full guns. Noticed that on the second viewing.
Now, Anya is away on her Starship tour, so it's a little alone time. He goes to the replicator, gets her some chocolate mousse, and she never tried it before. But get this, he doesn't give her a spoon, so she
Yeah.
uses her finger to eat it, which is pretty erotic now that I think
Is it?
about it. Oh, you know.
Well,
She's putting her finger in her mouth.
yeah, she only does it once. It's not enough to get you going, is it? In, out. I don't know.
Oh, my.
Peter says, how did Riker change from creepy to sultry? Come so far. He says, you're right.
Yeah, it has. I think it's better writing, for
Yeah.
one. He's just kind of fun.
Yeah. Spaceplan 10 says the creatures look like taxidermy disasters. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they're not
There's
great.
some dodge stuff in here. So they've got a weird thing going on about chocolate mousse in this whole episode. She just licks a little bit off her finger and then he takes it back from her and makes her leave it behind. Then they do something similar at the end. I don't get it. Maybe she can't eat. Can she only maybe just taste things? She's not actually
Maybe. I don't know.
human.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. She should have an outtake where she just buries her face in it. I agree, Rafe. That's how I would have eaten it if it had been given to me. If you've never had it before, go for it.
They talk, and Wesley discovers that she's never been to any other planet, so he decides he's going to take her to the holodeck to show her some of the good stuff.
Woo!
Basically, it's just a bunch of planets, all green screen with some fancy stuff. But Wesley's kind of showing off because he's like, oh, yeah, I've been to all these planets.
No, but he's doing it with grace. He does it well, doesn't he, Will? He
He does.
manages to not sound like a D-ball
Oh, yeah.
while
No,
he
no.
is essentially showing off. Well, she's lapping it up and she's touching him,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
sidling up. If he asked her any questions or if he had any emotional intelligence, which the character usually has, I'd say,
Yeah.
he might realise it's kind of cruel that he's showing her all this stuff. Going on about
Oh.
his exciting life. Because doesn't he know that she's never going to be able to go anywhere and she never has been anywhere?
Yeah. Anya's with Worf on this tour, and she's really starting to believe that the ship is not safe. Actually, if she watched the previous episodes,
She's got good reason.
she has good reason. So she goes into engineering, and she starts telling LaForge how to, like, do his job. And he's just like, look, lady, I've handled it. Like,
Yeah, I'm
just
on it.
beat it. And eventually she leaves. Then they go to sick bay, and then there's a guy there that's getting a treatment for a disease.
Under his little sparkly blanket.
And she says, oh, wait, that's contagious, isn't it? And Pulaski's like, well,
Kind of.
kind of.
We're
but
not
it's-
bothered about infection control here. She says, kill him.
Anya says, kill the guy. We can't. He's a risk to my ward. We can't have that. She turns into a big monster, and Worf has to wrestle with her.
It's barely a tussle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite weak. If you're going to have a monster, at least attempt a proper fight.
Yeah. They should have had like a full-on real fight where stuff gets wrecked and all that type of exciting thing, but unfortunately they don't do that in
Even
this
if
episode.
she's only doing it to scare him, she could do something scarier, but maybe she's just trying not to get killed. I don't know.
Yeah, there could be that, they've got a budget, fight scene choreography, and hire a stunt guy to come in there and do all this.
It's actually slower than the Gorn fight. And worse. Certainly less iconic.
It is a little bit slower than the Gorn fight.
If you can't afford to do it, don't do it at all. That's what I
Yeah.
say. 3 security guards, at least one of whom is a competition winner, in my opinion, come in and just stand there holding a phaser and doing nothing with it.
Right.
Eventually, Picard says, hold your fire. Nobody is firing.
Nope.
And then she turns back into the granny lizard lady. And then Worf nearly backhands her.
Oh, I know,
Once
yeah.
she's back to being an old lady.
Yeah.
Really tiny old lady as well.
She's not scared, though. He goes to backhand her, and she's just like, bring it.
Whatevs.
Picard tells her that she is now confined to quarters, and then she storms out. There's a great scene between Anya and Worf later, the two protectors.
After their date on the holodeck, Wesley takes Celia to Tem Forward for some more ice cream. She explains she'll never be able to leave Dalad 4, but Wesley suggests that she stay on the Enterprise. I did when my mum left. I get to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Any kid can, This really privileged person who just doesn't get that it's not the same rules for everybody.
Uh-huh.
She just walks out, Celia. And Guinan says just because she's left doesn't mean don't follow. So he does, and she gives him some mixed messages of leave me alone, and then she comes back again to talk to him.
Yeah. In the corridor, they run into Picard and Anya. She gets back to her old job, cockblocking, and they leave poor little Wesley all alone in the corridor, being sad. They arrive at Dalad 4, but it looks inhospitable. just like the place where they picked them up, but their sensors are having problems penetrating its dust storms.
Looks awful there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Picard has a little sit down with Wesley saying, look, what my crew folk do on their own time is their business, but I really need you to not snog Celia. Wesley reluctantly agrees to leave her alone. What is the Prime Directive situation here? Do they have warp technology but no ship to get somewhere?
That's a good question. I don't know. Obviously, they have some sort of deal with the Federation because they asked them to taxi cab them over to this planet.
They can't get there, but presumably they know about all this technology. Well, they do, because she's been studying it, hasn't she? So
Yeah.
maybe that means it's okay.
By just looking at what Wesley was carrying, she knew exactly what piece of warp core it was. Obviously, they got warp technology. Poor Wesley, he's all by himself playing what looks like some kind of solo backgammon. Not exactly sure what it is. And there's a little beep beep at the door. Celia, she wants to get that groove on.
She wants to do what people naturally do when they're alone together or something, she says.
Yeah, she comes on real strong. She's there for some action, and Wesley is up for it.
I was suspicious, though, because she seemed really sort of happy and relaxed more than before, so I thought it might be the cockblocker in disguise.
Oh, God, why? Why would she do that?
She's trying to catch him out and then eat him or
Oh,
something.
my
I don't know.
God. It's Celia, and she's just ready to get it on.
Yeah.
And by get it on, I mean gently touch lips.
Last chance for love.
Yeah, it's not the hot snogging, no cop in the field.
Might have been
anything.
his first ever kiss.
I think it is.
And Will's, maybe. Thought he would have got a bit of action.
Anya busts in and turns into a monster. Then Celia turns into a monster. What? They're the same type of being.
Well, different. There are other taxidermy disasters.
Oh, no. But they're both shapeshifters.
And it's kind of stop motion-y.
It's a morph, but what they did, I was reading about this, they actually took photographs and then they, by hand, animated the transition from
wow.
one form into the other instead of using, a computer to sort it out, because that, I think, was a little bit later, in Michael Jackson's black or white video, they had the face morphing. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
So this was, I think, a precursor to that, and they just did it by hand.
They redid them for the HD remaster, Rafe says. Because it looks pretty good, doesn't it? But it means everyone has to stand completely still quite a bit of the time.
So Anya turns back into a human, and so does Celia. Wesley is a little freaked out by this whole thing.
Yeah, but not that bad, is he? I mean, he's seen a few things. They finally get the message to beam down the passengers, and Celia comes to say goodbye to Wesley. He's hurt about her pretending to be human.
Was it fun
What do you mean?
playing humanoid? Was it fun?
Wesley, look at me. Right now, this minute, this is what I am. A humanoid girl.
What are you really?
Does it matter?
Yes?
Our natural state is one unlike anything you can imagine.
So you took this form for our benefit? That's why you wanted to know what species we are.
I'm sorry I hurt you. I didn't mean to.
I loved you.
I love you too.
Can you?
Yes. Oh, yes. I have the same feelings, the same emotions as you. You must believe me.
We're such different aliens. It's a coincidence that they've got exactly the same emotions and love at first sight and stuff, isn't it?
But that's some cold lunch Wesley's serving up right there. He's pretty harsh with her.
Yeah, but he does feel like he's been betrayed or lied to or something, doesn't he?
This is a thought that I had. We watched a documentary about trans representation in film, and they were talking about how a lot of times what was happening in movies was a trans person was tricking.
Like in that Ace Ventura Pet Detective, that was one of the awful examples
God, it
of
was
it.
terrible.
Where they found out the
Well, Crying
person
Game.
was trans and they were all puking.
Yeah, well, Crying Game as well. Remember, like when he discovers that she has a penis, he punches her. I thought to myself, is this some kind of parallel to that? The fact that Wesley feels like he's been betrayed or tricked or deceived about who she is.
Yeah, it's a good point to make, but I think for me the difference is that her natural state is not what she's presenting as now, whereas a trans person would be in their natural state as they met you for
Yeah,
date. She's various other beings, but the one he hasn't even seen the one she really is.
it made me sort of think about that, especially at this time. If there was some kind of parallel, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have been right on enough to present it
Right.
consciously.
But what's the responsibility for somebody to divulge information about yourself? How many dates before you can tell them that you got some sort of physical malady of some kind, or how about a prosthetic limb? You know, like that's something that's not apparent, but you have one. When are you supposed to divulge these things?
Well, I like listening to Savage Lovecast.
Yes.
Love advice. And he says that first date's not a deposition, but you probably shouldn't go to your first date in disguise. There's a different species. But this is a holiday romance.
It is.
So anything goes, because, you know, he might never have found out.
Yeah.
He always knew she was leaving.
Yeah.
So, speaking from experience, Magic Thighs, tell them as soon as possible, okay?
Yeah.
Anya and Celia prepare to say goodbye. Anya's much more tender now than she was before, and you see a little bit more of the mother side of her. Because her protector job is complete, she's delivered her, she's trained her, she's there. And now she's going to bugger off and go and live on the moon that she used to live on. She's not even going with her.
No. I feel like they were trying to stick that in for just a little extra drama. But I don't know why. Why should she wouldn't go with her, or why she wouldn't advise her. It could be that she is from one of the factions.
Yeah.
And that if she was there, it would make it look like she was favoring one of the factions, so she couldn't go with her.
Yeah, so she's got to be impartial. Well, really, they should have had two people raise her, one from each, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Or maybe she is from a separate race, I don't know. Rafe says, do you think that's why Picard is reluctant to date anyone he doesn't already know? He's worried it'll turn out to be Q. Surprise! As they get married, pulls back the veil, and it's Q. They part on good terms, but no hug. That's what you get for cock blocking.
Yeah. Now, as she's about to leave, Wesley comes to the transporter room with some mousse.
Here, have one fingertip full of this again. Why is he so obsessed with giving her mousse and ice cream?
With no spoon.
With no spoon,
Let her
yeah.
have a freaking spoonful instead of making her dip her finger in there.
Well, she gets the finger in again. She wants to leave with his taste in her mouth.
Oh, gosh.
But a lick of chocolate will have to do. She's going after this awful life. Why doesn't she just stay for a few spoonfuls?
I mean, just 5 more minutes, especially since Wesley's quit being grumpy pants. Give her a half hour, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but that might just give her a taste of what she can't have, mightn't it?
Yeah. I mean, with Wesley, it'd probably be 30 seconds.
Oh.
She asks him to leave because when she transports, she has to be in her true form. And Wesley says, no, I'd like to see it.
So he does.
Yeah, it's
Why
like, why
didn't
don't
even
you...
respect her request?
Well, she says specifically, I want you to remember me this way and not how I am. And he goes, oh, don't worry, I will remember you this way. And she's like, okay. She changes into kind of this light blob creature that's like a physical thing, like it's got a base and it kind of goes up shaped.
It's pretty, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
a light sculpture.
She transports away. And then we end with this scene in 10 Forward. It's Guinan and Wesley.
Seeing her on the transporter pad, it was like seeing pure light. I miss her. I feel empty.
I know that sensation. But there'll come a time when all you remember is the love.
I'm never gonna feel this way about anyone else.
You're right.
I didn't expect you to say that.
There'll be others. But every time you feel love, it'll be different. Every time it's different.
Knowing that doesn't make it any easier.
It's not supposed to.
Oh, you can trust Guinan to give him it straight, can't
Yeah.
you? She's not trying to placate or minimize what he's going through, just that it'll feel different every time.
I remember this episode, and I remember being a young lad in love and thinking that that was like pretty insightful, and it resonated with me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that what you only remember the love out of past relationships?
No,
know
I
if
don't
that's
think
true.
that's true. But I think the idea that you love everybody different, like you're never going to have that exact thing that you had with that one person with the new person.
Yeah.
Because,
It's going to be a different dynamic,
yeah,
a different time in your life.
Yeah.
You'll have different needs.
yeah. And that's something to remember, like that heartbreak, especially when you're young. It feels like your life is over.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Just keeps getting better, doesn't it?
it gets better.
Fill that emptiness with pudding, says Peter to Wesley. So, concepts. Well, Celia's kind of like a fairy tale princess, I think. Maybe Rapunzel or something? Got the dead parents, she's shut away by a magical woman, Stockholm Syndrome. element of that, maybe.
Maybe.
But she's more like Moana, really, in the sense that she's got all that responsibility on her shoulders for her people.
Yeah.
Wes, did he see himself as a prince, do you think? Kind of a bit of a rescuer? Alison Scott says Sleeping Beauty. Like she didn't have any kind of life for a period of time, maybe.
Yeah.
But Wes thought it was all much easier than it actually was. He didn't understand his privilege makes him an exception.
Well, and that she just had responsibilities already. Nobody else can do it. And he's just like, come hang out on the Enterprise with me.
Yeah, you can do anything you like. I do. So that she was brought up on a planet by one person. The ultimate homeschooling challenge.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
I would have needed more than just a terse goodbye at the end of all that, I think. So we had duty versus free will. Thinking of healthcare workers too over the past year or so. They must have wrestled, many of them, with their duty to continue against being more burned out than ever.
Yeah.
And their need to perhaps not do that work anymore or do less of that work. They didn't really go into the duty and free will conflict much. She kept mentioning it a few times, but it seemed as though she pretty much accepted throughout that she had to do it.
She doesn't want to condemn this planet to war. Well,
It's not just about her.
yeah. If I went to you, Rachel, and go, hey, look, you've got to go live on this planet or hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people will die, you kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Sure would suck,
It
wouldn't it?
would suck, sure. But, I mean,
Man. Rafe says it's a less violent Ilan of Troyes. Remember her? That really stroppy lady dressed in the Egyptian
oh,
attire.
right, yeah.
Yeah, good call. Yeah. Shapeshifters. I'm not sure how relevant that was to the plot.
No.
So their real form was the Light Tower, and their powers were infinitesimal compared to theirs. But if she was a light being or a glowing being, why did it matter that half the world was dark and half the world was light? Just light it up.
Yeah.
Solved it.
I mean, if you're the only light in your world, you would have a very different perspective than somebody that is in a world full of light.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair play, yeah. What is Deuterian control conduit? Anyone? That's what Geordie was messing around with. Puberty disrupting concentration highlights what important and dangerous work Wesley's been doing this whole time that he's been entrusted with.
Yeah.
What are they going to do about this? Because his hormones aren't going anywhere, are they?
No.
And there might not be
No.
anybody around for him to fall in love with, but aren't there supposed to be presumably other teenagers on the ship? Maybe he's not bothered by any of them.
Yeah, there should be people, other teenagers on the ship, but I don't think there are.
No hot ones.
Yeah, or maybe he's just like the oldest in his group. Yeah.
Could be. John Hazard says deuterium is the fuel they use in man to antimatter reactions. And Rafe says the deuterium control conduit was an essential component of a starship's warp propulsion system. Well, that's why they had to turn warp off to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
This system was maintained by a chief engineer and his staff when a ship was not at warp. Something they never mention again. So I'd 5 out of 10 for concepts.
Yeah, honestly, the concepts in this episode, as much as I enjoyed it, are pretty weak sauce here. There's nothing really blowing your mind. Yeah,
Shape-shifting, but we've had that plenty of times before.
I think it's like a 4.
Maybe, yeah. Entertainment. I laughed more than I have in most Star Trek episodes. Intentional
Yeah.
laughter.
Yeah.
It was some of the silly humor of Star Trek 4, I thought.
This is a good character episode.
Yeah.
Like you kind of get to know people a little bit more, like Worf and Riker and Guinan and
And they've got such good comic timing, a lot of them, haven't they?
yeah.
The Worf stuff was a bit dodgy because he was talking to a teenager and he was getting really into it, but it was still really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Decent chemistry between Wes and Celia, but it's hard to get invested in a one-day romance.
Sure.
Those summer nights. Lame fight scene. Surely they could have got somebody in a monster suit fighting properly.
Jazz it up, man.
There's not been enough foo for
No,
at least a year
there's not
now.
a lot of foo. Yeah.
The first 2 people after Data that Wesley went to for advice about a girl were black men, and no one's a Klingon really, but they're played by black guys. So I'm wondering if that could be seen as progressive
Oh.
or not. Worf was expressed as sexual in the episode, but a submissive sexual being, I guess. I looked at a paper called Popular Imagination and Identity Politics, Reading the Future in Star Trek, The Next Generation.
Somebody went down the rabbit hole, didn't they?
I did.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. By Brian L. Ott and Eric Aoki.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a quote. By inviting viewers to read his special difference as cultural difference, Worf functions to perpetuate numerous racial stereotypes. Worf, as with the other Klingons in TNG, is depicted as physically powerful, instinctively violent, and overtly sexual. He's not often portrayed as overtly sexual, is he?
No.
Once before, there was a fake female Klingon on,
Yeah.
and he got, horny with her.
Yeah. He got growly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He writes Salamon in 1993, a white man's nightmare of black masculinity.
Oh, whoa.
An amalgamation of the coarsest black stereotypes.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, I'm not sure about that. Worth some extra thinking.
Yeah.
This article continues. Moreover, Worf's sexuality is constructed around black male stereotypes, what Bird in 1998 calls the black book mythic type. They're sexual superhumans who are violent and frenzied as they lust for white flesh. In Haven, Worf claims he cannot have sexual relations with human women because human women are too fragile. I would have to restrain myself too much. This statement reinforces racist jokes about the black phallus. So
Oh my God.
that is another episode where he does say
Yeah.
something about sexuality. So I'm interested to think more about
that-
that. I don't know.
That does change because he does have relationships with humans.
Does
To
it?
spoiler.
Oh, does it?
Spoiler,
Yeah.
yeah. So this might be him bragging a bit as well. These are things to think about, obviously, because they might be in the subtext of it.
We saw an interracial sexual connection between Riker and Guinan, and I was unclear if it was him having power over her or vice versa, or if it was mutual.
Oh, it was mutual.
It definitely seemed to be
A flirty game of ping pong.
a joke that she decided to get into.
Yeah.
But are we supposed to think he's out of her league? Is that the joke?
Maybe?
I didn't.
I just think
Am I
that
thinking
they
about it too much?
seem like an unlikely couple, maybe, but why not?
Get into it because there's
Get
some
it where you
chemistry
can.
going on.
Yeah.
Interracial marriage became legal in the USA in 1967. Mildred and Richard Loving, only 22 years before this episode.
Yeah.
So potentially that's still quite trailblazing.
Yeah,
isn't it,
yeah.
at that
Oh, yeah.
point? Director Rob Bowman remembered, decent show about Wesley Crusher falling in love for the first time. I just felt there was no real conflict there. We did the best we could with a simple story. Yeah.
There's not a lot of conflict, but you don't
Not always.
you don't need it, especially when it's like a kind of a character-driven episode. And I thought it was fun, and I thought it was funny. I was never bored. Entertainment, I'd say 7.
I'm going to give it a 7.
Yeah.
Andrew Brenneman, it says Riker out of her league. Yeah, good point. And John Hazard says when he was born, his interracial parents' marriage was illegal in half the states.
Oh my God.
One reason I loved the Star Trek future.
It's insane.
Sexiness.
Well, ho ho ho.
Well, it was about hormones and attraction.
Yeah.
Puberty's not very sexy though, is it? I would have been way into Will if I'd seen that when I was a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
He would have totally been my type, along with, Joy from New Kids on the Block. This innocent, cute, pretty looking boy.
Yeah.
There was the sexy best friend from Twin Peaks.
Oh, yes, Shelley. Mhm.
Really gorgeous. But really, it was the granny.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Riker and Guinan got the sparks flying.
Mm-hmm.
Riker was very cheesy, but it was still...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
totally
give it
dug
3 for sexiness.
Knock it up to 4.
Ooh.
Because Star Trek doesn't get that sexy. So for Star
Yeah.
Trek, I think it's a 4.
Magic Thighs is giving it a 5 out of 5 for the Ewoks. Steven
Yes.
Turner likes Worf and Sexy Monster Nanny getting it on. Woo! Wanya is their couple name. Worf and Anna. Says Ray. You silly sods. Rebecca Russell's saying that scene with Riker and Guinan makes it a 5 for her.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good.
It was good.
It's really good.
It was good.
Stupid experts. Geordie was right to take Wesley off his tasks when he was so dreamy. But get to work, kid.
Yeah.
Nobody else gets to go and have a day off, having a date kicking around, does it?
Hold on. Maybe in Starfleet, if you get all in love,
Yeah.
They
Take it
might-
as a mental health day.
they might go, you know what? You need a mental health day.
Yeah.
Go spend some time on your own or go talk to this girl that you got a crush on.
Probably not supposed to have that young of a person working full time anyway, aren't you?
Well, that's a conceit that we just have to accept. That
He's
the idea.
exceptional.
Everybody in Starfleet seems to be exceptional. Like he didn't even pass the first entry test, remember?
Oh, only because they only would take one person, wasn't it? He's not the only
There's
exceptional
a lot
one.
of exceptional people. You get to cut ahead of the line and actually be on a functioning starship. he's like the navigator and at the con and all that stuff.
Rafe's given us a live score spread sheet update. Wait, hang on a sec. We've got to give our stupid experts.
Okay,
still.
stupid experts.
Yeah. What if Geordie hadn't been monitoring Wesley, though? Could have been catastrophic, really, couldn't it? Because he was doing some dodgy stuff and dropping things. And putting things
true.
on the wrong settings. And anyone else would get looked at by Pulaski, at least, if they were going all dreamy and goo-goo like that,
Right,
wouldn't
yeah.
they? I don't know. They didn't check these beings before having them on board. No one thought to explain their deal to them before they arranged the taxi, that they're not actually human and they can shapeshift and be anything.
Yeah, I don't know why that was a secret.
They just never bothered to ask. Rafe says Wesley did a better job when he was drunk in The Naked Now.
Yeah.
Finally, at least Worf was keeping his eyes on Anya on the tour. Did they trick the transporter when they came in? Didn't it pull up that they weren't actually human? And Troy was barely, doing her usual poor thing. I
Poor
know.
Troy.
Barely helpful. 3 out of 5, -3 for stupid experts.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that harsh?
see, the problems with it, I feel like, are script things. Nobody was doing anything that made me go, you should know better.
That's O'Brien's fault, isn't it? If the transporter's not picking
Then I
up
guess you're
stuff.
right, O'Brien's fault.
Rafe says, update, 30 points. Joint 65th rated episode out of 148. Level with Dagger of the Mind and Court Martial. Woof.
Oh, gosh, I liked this better than Court Martial
Yeah, I
for
thought I
sure.
did, yeah.
Wow.
My guess is I got the costume wrong. There was no gold faux leather bras.
No.
I did like the costume, though. It was really good.
Yeah.
She was sensitive on the inside, though.
Yeah.
He wasn't tempted to leave the Enterprise, but he did suggest that she stay.
Yes.
Whoopi did get involved as an advisor, and it did all happen on the ship.
Yeah.
So some bits there.
I got excited when you said that Whoopi gets involved as an advisor. I went,
Yeah, I'm so glad she's back, and she's
Inside
in
I
lots
did,
of
yeah.
episodes now.
yeah. Well, that concludes our coverage of this show. This is our first live recording.
I loved it. Thank you so much, everybody, for making it so fun.
Yeah, I think we'll do this again for sure.
I liked it.
Try and do it at least once a month. Okay, so we're going to get a little teaser for next week's episode.
All right, I'll head out.
Next time on Star Trek The Next Generation. Destroy that probe! An alien force is programming the Enterprise for self-destruction,
We're sitting on a bomb that could go off any second.
leaving the ship defenseless against an enemy attack.
They're preparing to fire photon torpedoes.
Sir, the shields aren't responding.
Now, the crew faces a countdown to disaster on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Ooh.
Sound good?
It's going to be an exciting one.
All right, we'll see you next week for that. Thanks so much for your support, patrons. Thank you for listening. Spread the word. And with that, I'm Rachel Lackey.
And I'm Chris Lackey.
And you've been listening to
Rachel watches Star Trek.
Rachel watches Star Trek.